Hi there, my name is Nguyen and welcome to the Breaking Barriers Beyond Practice Summit. I'm so honored here because I have a special guest speaker with us. Her name is Dr. Nguyen. She's an entrepreneur, author, eye doctor, speaker, real estate investor, and syndicator. She is the CEO and co-founder of BLACKSTEEL Investment Group. She has $600 million in asset under management in real estate and is invested in over 7,300 units as general partners and limited partners across 27 apartment communities and in 3 land development projects. And that's not all. She also owns 2 successful eye practices in DFW, named Eyepieces for over 12 years. She is a blessed mother to her 8-year-old beautiful daughter, Athena, and proud wife to her life partner, Dr. Jaime Gonzalez, for 18 years. Her passion is to travel the world, to immerse in different cultures, and of course, giving back to the community, to nonprofit organizations. So welcome, Dr. Nguyen. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on, Winnie.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, so I'm honored to have you here because the purpose of the summit is for physicians, dentists, and other professionals alike to thrive beyond a clinical practice in terms of being able to overcome their mindset, their well-being, and of course, achieve financial freedom. And you, of course, have proven to being able to accomplish all this and more. And I was just wondering if you could kind of share with us your background history, your story, where you came from, and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So my family actually fled Vietnam after the war. And so my mom was pregnant with me at the time. My dad was the one who actually had the boat, 75 people on a wooden boat, 7 days at sea. So I was actually born in Manila in the refugee camps in the Philippines. I traveled around quite a bit before we migrated into the US when I was 8.5 years old. And so it was a long journey of like when we came to the States, my mom and dad were janitors. And so from a financial standpoint, I mean, we really didn't have much. And so when people ask me now, where are you from? I just say New Orleans because I claim that's where I've lived the longest. And so when I was in New Orleans, we grew up in a little bitty trailer that my mom and dad bought for $3,000. And so, you know, the financial hardship was really my journey of wanting to do better. And I had 2 older brothers, and my dad passed away really young. So he passed away when he was only 43 years old. And so here's my mom, didn't speak the language, never was going to go to school. And so I was helping my mom, and we got a little convenience store in a really bad part of New Orleans. But I learned how to do business by age 10. And, you know, working with my mom, early entrepreneur, helping her, you know, with the cash register, working in the kitchen and anything I could. And so I was like really determined to try to help my mom as much as I could. And really the goal back then was really just to help retire my mom because she was working 7 days a week. I really didn't want to have that lifestyle of working 80 to 100 hours per week, trying to make ends meet. And so that was kind of my driving force to do well academically. And so I chose to become a doctor, and, you know, not because my mom pressured me to become a doctor. Honestly, she never went to school. So she was really like, just pursue whatever career path that you would really enjoy. And that if you could be your own boss, that would be great. I really loved pursuing to become a doctor. I wanted to help serve patients. And so I did that. I was able to go to optometry school. And I met Jaime. He was my lab partner there. And so we graduated back in 2006. And I followed him to Dallas. And, you know, we came out of school with $350,000 of student loan debt. And so, you know, and both, his story is pretty similar. So immigrants, and both of our parents come from very humble backgrounds. And so we lived in a bitty, small 1-bedroom C-class apartment when we came to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we continued living the lifestyle of a student, even though, you know, when we were able to get a 6-figure income, our goal was to get our own practice within about 4 to 5 years. And so we lived really frugal, way, way below our means. Really, we're good about budgeting, cooking at home, and making sure we set money aside to purchase our own and start our own practice. And so after working about 4.5 years for another doctor, and we bought our own clinic. And so that's where I-Pieces came to fruition. That was, now one of them is 12 years and one of them is 10 years, and we have 2 locations. And that was kind of the journey of, becoming a doctor and owning our practice. And honestly, Winnie, that I thought back then that if I could ever own our own practice, that we were set. Like that was the beginning of our journey. That was really our end goal, was to become practice owners. And the truth of the matter was, as much as we love serving our patients, we were still working so hard, like 60 to 70 hours in both of our practices. And when Athena was born, that was 2014. And that was the game changer for us because, well, it took us a long time before we were able to get Athena. And I had such a hard time having a baby that when Athena was born, my priority shifted. I was like, well, how can I still be a really good doctor and career woman, but still be really there for my daughter and have more flexibility of time? And that was what was missing. Is financially we were doing well in our practices, but we really had no time freedom. We were grinding and grinding. And I had reached a point where I was starting to get burned out, and I really wanted to spend time with Athena, because literally I had maternity leave. I had Athena. After 2 weeks she was born, I went back to work, and I just wanted something else. And that was where, I told Jaime, you have to figure something else out, because I really want more time with Athena. But I don't want to stay at home only. I want to still continue to have flexibility and grow our business. And that's where real estate came into the picture. And that was really, man, that once we got into learning all the different asset classes of real estate, that was where that adventure started in 2015.
That's amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing that incredible story. Looking back, you came to America with your family, you had American dream. You worked hard at a young age. You learned the skill set you were exposed to at such a young age, but yet it brought you to the stepping stones to where you are today. So going through back, then you graduated from optometry school, you and your husband, it was like the dream, you've reached it. But then you hit that point when you had your daughter, that you couldn't keep on going through this. If you don't mind sharing, what exactly was going through your mind at that time when you made that decision? I mean, the impact it had on your relationship, your family became a priority. Can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was a really emotional time for me because, it was at a pivotal moment where, like, I needed to get out of my comfort zone to start learning. It's like, that the education never stops. But when you get into the world of real estate, it's very different than the medical education and formal education that I'm accustomed to. And so I was kind of almost doing double work. At the time, I was continuing to work 6 days a week in my practice. And then on top of that, on the weekends and after hours, after Athena would go to sleep, then I would study and listen to podcasts or, read and try to learn about the real estate space. And so it's scary. And when, I was talking to my family about wanting to pivot and learn more about real estate investing so that I could build multiple sources of income to buy back my time so that eventually I could transition and have a little bit more flexibility to do both. I think my family thought I was crazy. And so it was a little discouraging on who I could speak to, because all of my colleagues were all in the medical field. I have friends from their optometrists, their dentists, their MDs, chiropractors, all in the medical profession, and nobody did real estate investing. So I didn't really have a role model in my immediate circle to be able to ask questions or see their model. And so it was I invested money to go and learn and go to conferences and spend my weekends doing things in addition to, which at the beginning, I realized I had to sacrifice a little bit of that time to learn extra on top of working full time still in our practices. And once I learned the ropes, and, we did overseas investing before we got into the multifamily. And so I did real estate the hard way. In hindsight, I can't believe I did it the way I did it. But I went to Belize and went overseas and bought land, hired an architect, built from ground up, and then, rented it out as a short-term rental so that we could use it as a vacation home for our family, for our teams, but then also to rent it out when we weren't there. And that would be a legacy asset. And I named that first property, my very first real estate investment property is named after our daughter. So it's called Athena's Mahogany House by the Bay. But that's how I started the hard way.
But that's okay. That was your first stepping stone to everything else that you are where you are today. But how did it feel to be surrounded by colleagues and friends who didn't understand the space of real estate?
Yeah, I knew that journey, I had to surround myself with other people who were already doing it successfully because my friends and my family were just trying to protect me. And so, my brother's a doctor too. And, he says, you should stay in your lane. Real estate is really risky. And, and he kept feeding me, but I know he did it out of love for protection for me. And same as my mom, she goes, you're a doctor. Why would you go do real estate? So it was a little different. I'm like, because they didn't understand it. They didn't understand how it could work, and that I had a network and I had people everyday people being able to do successful real estate investing. And so I had to really hone in my mindset and my energy. And I started my self-development journey the same time as I started looking into my real estate journey, because that was a huge jump in my stretching beyond my comfort zone, because I was used to the doctor world. I was getting used to the routine of how my practice ran, seeing patients. I mean, that was my wheelhouse. I could do that with my eyes closed and I felt really comfortable. Getting into the real estate space was a totally new front for me. I wasn't used to seeing a lot of people, new people. These large conferences with networking was really not my cup of tea when I started out. I would sit in a corner and I would prefer no one come talk to me. I just wanted to learn. And I was super shy. And it took me a long time to kind of like get more comfortable where it felt natural, and for my mind and my heart to expand, to be open to really understanding and getting to know people, and know that real estate is a team sport. It is about relationships. It is about getting way beyond your comfort zone. And that's been a journey through the years.
That's incredible. So you had a vision, a belief, despite anybody around you were thinking and said to you, but yet you went full force and went for it. And of course, with the support of your husband, Jaime, as well. Now, a question I have for you is that during this moment in time, many are still perhaps before they go to bed, when they wake up first thing in the morning, they're always thinking about the past. It's always about what's still lingering in their mind that they can't get past. So what advice would you have for our audience who are kind of like in that area in their life where they want to get over the hump, but is struggling to get over there?
Yeah, and I've been there, just the hump and being stuck of getting to the next hurdle. And that's why I mentioned the self-development coinciding. There's different ways you can do self-development. And what's really worked for me is both in person and something what I call immersion kind of seminars. And so Tony Robbins was a big one for me. Of course, when he had a lot of the live events, I would go. And those are 4 to 5 days of intense days surrounded with people who are doing this type of work. And I think the self-development journey, whether you go in person, there's Brandon Burchard, there's a lot of motivational speakers like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Les Brown. And so I would feed my subconscious mind. YouTube has so much, there's such a plethora of growth development things that you can utilize that's free. There's also an app that is a very low fee. It's a paid app, but it's called Growth Day by Brandon Burchard. And I think it helps, especially to listen to speakers of all different things, but also to journal. I write down a lot of things because, believe it or not, they say statistically 80 to 90% of your thoughts of how you speak to yourself are things that are negative and are things from the past. And so, in order to truly let go of the past and move forward and focus on truly being present now and being able to visualize and manifest for the future, it's an ongoing work. And I think journaling and writing down, goals and action steps, because changing habits and thought processes is not overnight. It's not just one event that you can do. You can go for an immersion and feel like you're transformed in a few days, but if you don't consistently maintain that, and I do meditation, I do priming, I do deep breath work, so it kind of relaxes my mind. And then, I forgive. And I think that's one of the biggest things is healing the things from the past and the things that you were disappointed about in the past and moving forward. And so that's a constant process. And once you have that going for you, then you can really think and dream and visualize bigger. Because if you truly don't believe it for yourself, it won't happen. And so I would write things down and I would dream things and I would date them by a certain time point. And anything I write down on a napkin has come to fruition or more. And it's crazy when you really manifest it, but you have to take the action steps to go along to that next milestone. And I think that's important, is to surround yourself around people, but then also to subconsciously feed your mind on a daily basis on positive things and for things for you to look and dream bigger.
Yeah, that's great. I would also say don't even hesitate to just post it up on a wall to, your goals and dreams in life so you don't forget about it, because we get so caught up in our day-to-day life that we forget about even that dream or goal we had. And then another day will pass, a week, months, or years, and we're still where we are at right now. But that's great to know. I want to know also, how important is the role in terms of the belief system, in terms of your spouse, the support he's had in your life?
Jaime's been, honestly, Jaime's been the biggest blessing, really, coming into my life 18 years ago. And again, during optometry school, it's a very stressful time. I was coming out of a bad relationship, but he's been a very big supporter in my journey. And he's always been very a visionary, much more forward thinking than I am. I've always been more conservative by nature, very slow in the moving process. He'll plant the seed. He always plants the seeds, but he allows me he's patient enough to allow me to take my time to come along. And when I'm on board, I'm full ahead, but he doesn't pressure me or make me feel like I have to do something if I didn't want to do it or if I wasn't ready to pursue it. And so, because we're also business partners in our practices, we're business partners in all our real estate ventures. And so having a supportive spouse who's my best friend, who's my husband, who's a phenomenal father, has been the biggest blessing for me, honestly. So I'm so grateful for Jaime.
Wow, I hope Jaime's hearing this. But yes, he is wonderful. I've met him in person, and you seem so well complementary to each other, and it shows. And that's truly a blessing to have. So thank you again for sharing that with us. And I want to know, I guess, what are you the most grateful now in life, now that you've overcome so much to get to where you are now? And a lot of people, we have to realize and say that this took a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment, many years in the making to where Dr. Nguyen is today. But what are you the most grateful of right now, this moment in time?
I am the most grateful right now that I've been able to dig deeper and truly discover my more authentic self. I feel like through my course of the journey, I've always been one of those high achievers, go, 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 go. And I don't think anything about it. I focus on, get over it, just do it, get over it, just do it, next step, next step. And what I've been allowed to do now, since I've had a lot more time to reflect and have worked a lot more on my development journey, into finding out who I am as a person and discovering the things I'm truly passionate about. And so just going into that, people don't believe it seeing me who I am now, but I've always struggled with internally finding self-love and finding like the self-confidence. And I think I'm most grateful because now that I've discovered true inner peace and happiness, it really exudes when I interact with other people. I'm able to connect with them on a more, on a deeper level. I'm much more passionate with everyone that I serve, whether it's patients, whether it's investors, the organizations that we help. I'm able to be more authentic. And I feel like that's the most grateful place to be because I'm truly happy internally. And so if I lost everything today, like from within, that I would be okay. You know, I've built that, where before it was more external. My resume looked great, but it felt like I was unfulfilled. I felt like there was a lot missing. And so today, if I were to leave, you know, tomorrow, I truly feel like I'm in a very good place where now I just want to help as many people as I can. But I know that I always have to pour and fill myself first before I can pour into others. And that's been a long journey coming.
That's amazing. So
Mhm.
what I hear, self-care, self-development played a significant role as well to where you are today. And you blocked off time in the morning, and you still do, to
Mhm.
put yourself first before the start of the day, before anybody else. Because fundamentally, if you don't take care of yourself, it seems like nothing else will matter.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's impressive there. What I want to know also is what is the attribute that you would say contributes to your overall success that took you to where you are today now?
You know, I would say grit, probably the best word if I had to pick one word and attribute. I've never been one to give up. You know,
Mhm.
I stick into it, whether I was at a very young age and every milestone where I felt like I wanted to give up or think there were a lot of challenges. I've always stuck it through. I've always been able to say, like, hey, you know, I'm committed. And that's one thing that once I'm committed, I'm fully in it. I work extremely hard, just like a lot of people who are listening in, especially becoming in the journey of being a doctor. We know grit is part of that journey, but even starting new things, whether it's relationship, whether it's being a mom, whether it's things I struggle with internally, I think grit and kind of having clarity into the bigger why, I'm very clear about that. And so that keeps me going, regardless of what the hardship and challenges are, you know?
That's great. That's great. When we have a journey, it may not be easy, and expect failure because failure is going to make you stronger. It's going to push you more forward to want to get to where you are. And can you think of a time looking back when you might have experienced this and how you were able to overcome that?
Yeah, failure. I mean, I experienced a lot of failure in my real estate journey, you know, and so that was a new venture and it was already challenging as it was. And then when I started out and we had tried to pursue into the multifamily space, we had passively invested. And then when we kept trying to pursue becoming our own, getting our own multifamily deal, we chased it, underwrote so many deals. And when we finally, after 8 times at best and final, our 9th deal, we finally were awarded one and we were so excited. And then, you know, come to find out, we went to a mastermind. We were talking about how it was our first deal as a general partner. And then one of our mentors told us it wasn't a good deal. And he said, you should run and you should give up that deal. And we already put hard money. We didn't have any investors. We didn't have another partner put money. So it was solely our money. But I felt like, okay, we went in, we backed out of the deal, we listened to him and we took a loss for it. And so it was kind of like, you know, that was kind of, it felt like it was defeating. I was like, man, we tried so much and we had worked for a year and a half before we could finally try to win one deal. It was, you know, 18 months of our time committed full time to doing that. And I already hired other doctors for our practice when we transitioned to wanting to do this full time. And I felt like money wasn't coming in at that time, except for our passive investments. But I was like, man, did I make the right decision? And so that was and then it wasn't just one time. Another deal right after that happened again. And I lost money. So, you know, people don't hear the backside of some of the failures. But then again, the third one, we finally got clearance. And then it's that 0 to 1. And then it's like, okay, I think now we got the ball rolling, you know? And so people see the journey now, but the front end was really hard. I cried many nights, Winnie. I
I
think
believe you.
really did. And I would like just go on the balcony and just let it out, let your emotions out. And, because we're used to receiving a certain type of return when you put the time, money, and passion into something. And when you just don't see it coming to fruition, I'm like, man, what are we doing wrong? How come everybody else is posting their success stories? Like, what are we doing wrong?
I hear, yes, yes. But it's important not to compare yourself to others, right? And an important lesson learned here is that you kept on persevering.
Yeah.
You did not stop. You did not let go of your dream, your vision. You kept on going at it, both of you. And once you're able to bypass and gain that one success, it's just so much easier thereafter.
It is.
It
Definitely.
is.
It
Yeah.
is. It's breaking the barrier of you're almost there. You're almost there, but you're not. And then it's like just one other thing, another challenge, and then another challenge. But that's why you just have to stay in the game and, be committed and know that's part of the journey.
Yeah, it certainly is. And mindset plays such a big component. You have to work on it constantly, daily, to overcome such challenges, and having a good support system around you is so essential. But thank you so much for sharing that. So at the end of the day, what is the one message you would have for our audience out there who are trying to just get past whatever it is that they're stuck in right now in life or want to achieve, but still lingering and still not getting the progress that they need to be, or where they want to be, I should say?
I would say it's never too late to reinvent yourself to become the better version of you, and so when you dream bigger, you want to see who do I need to become in order to, fill those dreams. And so you constantly have to evolve in order for you to fill the dreams that you want to pursue. Because if you do the same thing day in, day out, if you do the same habits, the same thought processes, and hang around the same people, and you don't see traction, you have to change your environment. You have to change your habits. And, little by little by little. So, it doesn't happen overnight. But if you do a 1 degree change each day, it's progress over perfection, And so I would encourage you to don't give up on your dreams. I say live today. This is from Les Brown. Live today the way you want to leave, And so commit yourself. And if you put in the work, if you truly did the best that you could in order to grow, because at the end of the day, don't worry about what anybody else thinks, right? It's for you. And when you put yourself and you really have clarity on the bigger why and the bigger dream, you'll figure out the how.
That's powerful. All right. For all our audience members out there, you might want to rewind and listen back to those last few minutes for that key message that Dr. Nguyen just shared with us, because that was very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.